So, you may have seen the title and wondered, how? Were you actually robbed in broad daylight? Were you held at gunpoint? Or did you carelessly leave your money unattended? Or maybe, are you over-exaggerating your title as clickbait only to explain how Starbies is overpricing their products? No, and though some things are pretty overpriced, nope. Wait, actually, well, kinda yes to the first one. I was robbed in broad daylight, but not in the way you think. And I suggest you stay through the whole video to see how it happened, because I never thought I could get robbed at a legit fast food place in this way. So I think you should watch out in case this happens to you. This is my first storytime video, so I've gotta admit, this may be corny or a bit cringy to watch, so we're all working through this, but hey, let's have some fun. This story is set up on a warm summer's Friday in June. I had just finished my final exam for an intensive biochem summer course and finished catching up with some friends I hadn't seen since before the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we were to drive back home, which was over an hour away from the uni I took my classes at, we went clothes shopping for, well, just for the sake of having clothes in general, as well as for a trip we were all leaving for in a couple of days. At least that's what my siblings did. I felt like the last time we passed by there, I had already found what there was to find, at least for me. So I decided to walk to the nearby Starbies to get 1 or 2 warm cheese danishes and probably a paradise drink for Frre, which is basically, to my understanding, a mix of coconuts, pineapple, and maybe some other tropical fruits. Before I go on, for better or for worse, I hope people these days still have some sense of humor, but it's funny how when I was a child, I thought Starbies was for, this should explain that. And for us Canadians, at least some of us, it kind of felt like an overpriced Timmy's to some extent. The 2 main influences that sold me were, first, one of my closest friends at the time, who was unironically a blonde Caucasian American woman, offered to buy me a Frappuccino from Starbies, which just led us to get more Starbies as a friend group together, and it just became a routine. And 2, the science department at my uni gave every science student a Starbies gift card as a Chinese New Year gift, which gave me even more incentive to go to Starbies repeatedly. And over time, I just got hooked. The other thing before I go on with the actual story is, why am I saying Starbies instead of this chain's actual name? Multiple reasons actually. Admittedly, I do like saying Starbies just because it feels fun and it rolls off the tongue easier for me, so when I'm more relaxed, that's the name I'll call it by. Kinda like how you may be called a pet name by your loved ones when they're chill with you, but they call you by your government ID when you know something's gone wrong or awry. The other reason is, well, legal reasons? I say that with a question mark because I don't know if they could do anything by me telling a story that occurred at one of their establishments. But hey, the odd ones out, shout out to James, did so with his Suaboy series for fun, and for legal reasons if I recall correctly. So I'm doing so too. Which, by the way, this isn't sponsored by him at all. He doesn't even know I exist. But go watch that series if you haven't already and are interested. I found it fun and funny when I watched it the first time through. Anywho, back to the story. Finished final exam, caught up with my fellas, and walking to Starbies. So, I finally walked in the doors, and that familiarly sublime, sensational aroma embraced me with its warmth and filled up my nostrils with its fragrance. I walked up to the counter and placed my order, fondly looking forward to its completion and its delivery into the palm of my hands. As they were completing the order, the cashier asked me to pay, which is expected, but when I tried using my card, it didn't go through. After a few attempts, the cashier said something like the card reading machine thingy system had seemingly been down off and on throughout the day, and I didn't have cash to pay with me. So you know what the cashier suggested to me? Yeah, she suggested that I try paying her with the card through PayPal. My neurotransmitters were engaged, preparing my body to receive that which I yearned for, my Starbies order. And although I had already told myself I wouldn't spend anything at all prior to leaving on this trip I was about to go on unless if it was a necessity, I had already made a mental exception in my mind to violate my self-restriction and treat myself at the end of my set of spring classes. I knew I wasn't Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, like I was a broke college student, but at that point in time, I wasn't that broke, so I had resolved to show them I wasn't broke, getting that transactioning, and get me some grub if you know what I'm saying. I think that was a terrible mistake looking back at it. I did not second guess that at a Starbies that may or may not be the most legit form of payment for your order. And this is in Canada, might I say. Maybe that happens in other parts of the world, but I haven't seen that in Canada before. But I really wanted the Starbies, so I went ahead with it anyways. The cashier claimed my transaction didn't go through, so after trying that and everything else we could think of, I just walked back to where my fellows were in defeat. But no matter, I was done a set of classes. I got to spend some time with people for the first time in almost half a decade, and now I got to go traveling outside of North America again for the first time in over a decade. So, as disappointing as not getting my Starbies was, that was okay. At least I still had some money in my card, which I could use for this trip, since the order didn't go through. Or so I thought. During a layover I had in Amsterdam, I was so thirsty, and for some reason, there were so many luxury brands with stores all around the airport, but it felt really difficult to find even a free water fountain. This layover was 8 hours, mind you, so after a while my mouth felt really dry, which is unusual because sometimes I can go a whole day without drinking water and not feeling thirsty either. This time, I had a parching thirst, and that made me all the more determined to find some water or maybe some other fluid that I could reasonably drink. I found a flavor of Fanta that I didn't know existed, Fanta Lemon, which I've never seen it in my corner of Canada at least, so it really made me want to buy it. So I tried to buy it, and the cashier told me, this reader doesn't detect any money in the card. I found that unusual because I know it had worked before, but for some reason, I just dismissed it as maybe my card not working overseas. So I just shrugged and walked away, never having the chance to try that flavor of Fanta. So trying Fanta Lemon is still on my bucket list, along with Fanta Berry and Fanta Elderflower, which I heard were in the UK, but never saw while I was there. Anywho, side tangent aside, my brother found a water fountain, so I drank from that as if it was the first oasis I'd come across after wandering a desert for days. Which is ironic, because isn't the Netherlands low-key trying to stop itself from getting flooded all the time? It's literally below sea level. Anyways, I guess you can't drink seawater. I did have fun during our trip, and on my way back, I had a 12 or so hour layover overnight in Montreal, Canada. trying to explore Montreal a bit during dusk was underwhelming, especially after exploring London in the UK, not London, Ontario, right before coming to Montreal, which, man, never have I missed public transportation like Montreal made me miss London's tube system. So after that debacle, which could be an entire story on its own, I spent the remaining 12 hours overnight in Montreal's airport. By the time we got back, the airport's central security area, which lets you get to your gate, was closed, and there weren't many great places to loiter before passing security. Like, legit, people brought entire tents to sleep in by themselves or with their families on the airport floor. So I just kept myself awake by doing various things. One of those things that I did was to check my transaction history on the card I had been using, or at least trying to use, but had supposedly failed on 2 separate occasions on 2 different continents. What did I find out? First, I found out that the card should have worked in Amsterdam, as it was one of the 150 or so countries it was enabled in, if not for one transaction. One at Starbies. Based on the transaction history, it appeared that when those fellas put my account details into PayPal, the money actually went, but they took all of the money that was in my card, which was a shocking revelation. Now, 2 things. I want to make it clear, I do not blame Starbucks for this. I've gone several times before and a few times after and had great service. I like to go from time to time when I'm still blessed with the opportunity and resources to do so. I'm assuming this was a rogue employee or 2 who had their reasons. Maybe this economy wasn't doing it for them either, and finding themselves between a rock and a hard place, they made a bad decision. The other thing I want to say is, I've got to admit, I've kept saying my card, and in actuality, it was a prepaid Visa gift card that I was using. So it's not like some random people have my bank account info and were laundering all the money in my bank account. Nah, but it was one of those college student seasons for me where if a robber saw my bank account numbers, they will donate to me. Like, I was living with low resources, which is why I tried to use a prepaid Visa gift card, even though I had set that aside specifically for my trip. I had a decent amount in that gift card, enough to convince me I could get food or some interesting knickknacks here and there. So pretty much, virtually all the remaining money I personally had, man, that rocked the depths of my soul. True. So, what is the moral of this story? Well, I guess if someone even at a legit fast food place or chain asks you to pay by PayPal, at least in North America, it could be a scam. But maybe mainly, don't get to the point where you desire something so much that you're willing to not second guess what you usually would. Because by doing so, you may end up risking something that's has to do with your personal safety or with the safety of others. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you check out some of the other stuff I have. I'll be going away for Christmas and the month of December, but that is one to relax and spend time doing things and being with people. And The other reason is to give myself some space or time to prepare the bangers I have planned for 2025, which there is a list of ideas that I've got going on, and it is not in the community page yet, but I think in the community page I wrote that I have like 5 videos planned for 2025 for sure. That's not true anymore. I think now there's like at least 12 or 18. One for like once every 3 weeks at least. And then around October, there's going to be, between October and November, there's going to be a set of at least a minimum of 4 videos every week coming out. That is a plan. That's the goal. But yeah, I'm just going to take a step back to try to see what I can do better. Relax, reconfigure myself, and bring this with the best I can bring to this. So, yeah. This is totally unscripted, this last part. And, well, yeah. I hope you stay tuned. Thank you. Bye.